So currently inside this getChats method, when we set up the real-time listener using this onSnapshot method, we're getting back every single document change, and it doesn't matter what chat room that change is for. So if we look over here, we can see we're getting all of these different objects back, and the room could be general, it could be gaming, it could be something else. If it was music and ninjas, it would still be here. We're retrieving all of those documents back. Now, when we set up the chat room instance over here, we said we were in the gaming chat room. So when we create an instance like this, it would be nice to only listen for document changes which have a room property of gaming, so that we only get those documents back, just the gaming ones, and not the general, not the music, not the ninjas, etc. So to do that, we need to use a complex query, and that is the where method. So after we get a reference to this .chats right here, which is the collection reference, then we can use a method called where. And this method is basically going to allow us to get documents from a certain collection where a certain condition is true. So it takes in 3 arguments. The first argument is going to be the property name we want to assess. Now inside our database over here, we can see properties called room, and that's the thing we ultimately want to assess, because we want to say only listen for changes to documents where the room is equal to whatever room we pass in here. Now, just while I'm in the database, I noticed this one a second ago, the test. I'm going to delete that document because we don't need this one anymore. It's just a dummy document. Anyway, now we need to say in here, we want to listen for changes where the room property, and then the second parameter is going to be a double equals to say is equal to something. We don't use a triple equals in Firestore, we just use double equals, and that is going to be equal to whatever room we pass in when we create that instance. Now we store that on a property called room on the instance, so we can say where the room is equal to this dot room, and that could be in this case gaming, but it could be something else like general or ninjas or music. So that's good. Now we're only going to get data and changes back from documents whose room is, in this case, gaming. So we're attaching that snapshot to this query now. That's absolutely fine. So if I save this and test it out over here in the console, we can see now we only get this one object, and that's because the room is gaming. But if I change this to general and save this and reload, then I'm going to get the general objects back, because that is the chat room that we're looking for. So that's the first step done. Now we're just getting back the object for that particular chat room that we want. And we are going to look at how we can change the chat room on the fly later on when we click these buttons. And at that point, we're going to be changing what documents we're listening for, etc. But for now, it's good enough that we can listen to a particular set of objects based on whatever value we pass in as the room. So that's the first step done. Now, the next thing, when we get data from Firestore, it doesn't automatically order that data in any kind of way. It doesn't order it alphabetically, it doesn't order it by created at, etc. So what we want to do when we're showing messages, we want to order them in time or date order, basically by this property right here, created at. So again, we can chain on that functionality to our query. So I could say after where, because now we're getting certain documents where the room property is equal to this. So that's a reference to those documents. Then I can say I want to order these by something. And to do that, I use an order by method. Now this takes in one parameter, which is going to be a string, and that is whatever property I want to order by. Now we want to order by our created at property, which is the Firestore timestamp. So now when we make this query and we get these changes, it's going to order them by created at, so it's going to put them in time order. Now when we save this and first try to run it, it's not going to work, and you're going to see this gigantic error over here, but fear not. This is basically telling us that this query that we're making, where we're trying to order it by the created at property, is not valid yet because the query requires an index. So basically it needs a little bit of configuration over here on our database in order to go in and order them by the created at property. But that's easy to do. All we have to do is follow this link it provides us with. So click on that. We just need to click create index to create this index, and that is just going to take a few minutes to build. So once that is fully complete, you're going to see enabled under the status, and if I was to go back now and refresh over here, this should work. And now we get the documents back, and this time they're going to be ordered by the created app property, meaning when we now output them to the browser, we're going to be outputting them in date order, which is what we want. So now we've seen how we can listen to a certain property, or documents which have a certain property rather, and also order them by created at. But at some point, when a user clicks on one of these buttons over here, we're going to want to update what documents we're listening to based on that room. So we're essentially going to want to change the room property over here and then reset up a listener to listen to those documents with that room property. So we'll see how to do that in the next video.